Well, hey, you, and welcome back to another episode of the Western Hippie Podcast. I'm your host, Michaela, and I'm here with Tank and Willie the Corgi, so you may hear them a little bit in the background. And I'm one of my favorite quotes is, I don't laugh because I think it's funny. I laugh because I prefer to laugh than to cry. And I think this is my 7th or 8th take trying to record an episode. And I got up, I was like, I'm going to go TMI maybe, but I'm like, I'm going to go pee because there's something about peeing that's just like, let me release some shit, get a different perspective. I'm going to come back and try this again. And I thought, how perfect then let's talk about literally what I'm currently experiencing, because when I was recording my first take, I felt so good about it. And I was so excited about it. I hadn't been that excited about an episode in a while, and I was so stoked. And then one of the dogs jumped on the couch and grabbed the mic like it was a toy. And my goal is actually, I'll go back and re-listen to that take and I'll just pick up, but I'm a little bit on a time crunch, which is not good for me. I don't feel like in certain scenarios, I'm great under pressure. When I played volleyball, if we were tied and a server needed to come to get in, because there was a lot of people, if you put them into serve when we were at a tie, they would crumble. I wouldn't. I excelled under that kind of pressure. What kind of pressure I don't excel under is when I feel like I have to be rushed. And that was the thing with volleyball. I knew how to breathe and drop in, where with this, if I have an episode that I want to, if it takes me 2 hours to record it, it takes me 2 hours to record it. It's when I want to have that 2-hour time, but I have to leave here in 45 minutes. That's when I get a little stressed out about it. And it's totally this is on me. I didn't plan accordingly. And so that was and this is what we're going to talk about today. We always have 2 choices we can make. More choices, but in the moment, it's usually between 2. Do I just say F it and not do an episode this week? Well, Michaela, you've committed to doing an episode every week, and we took the holidays off. But other than that, we've done it. So are you going to keep that commitment, or are you going to not do it because one thing got hard? There's been so many little tech difficulties today. Like I said, one of the dogs got on the couch, not Willie or Tank. One of the other dogs got on the couch and grabbed the mic. So am I just going to say, because a lot of times we confuse a dead end with a roadblock. There's a lot of times, and this is something I've been navigating the last few years, something hard will happen. It's like, well, God just doesn't want me to do that. This is just a sign that this is not meant for me. Rejection is protection. I'm good. When in reality, it was just a roadblock that you needed to go around or go over. And so that was the moment that this is what I want to do. God, put this podcast on my heart. This is what I'm here to do. It does not come without a buy-in. I don't like the word test. I do like the word buy-in. And so this is just part of the buy-in. Are you going to keep going or are you going to give up? That was the choice. And one of the things that I was thinking about for a different episode is one of my favorite movies is Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. And there's a lot of reasons that I love it. But Ethan Hunt really helped me remember who I am at my core. And that's one of the reasons I've been talking about movies, is because our favorite characters, our favorite movies are reflecting back something deeper than us. And Ving Rhames' character, Luther, says in Rogue Nation, a Brant, which is played by Jeremy Renner, who's also Hawkeye in the Marvel movies. They were arguing about how to solve something, and Luther steps in and says, sometimes Ethan's the only one who can see it. And it's not that nobody else has the ability to see things the way Ethan does. Ethan's just one of the only ones who believes he can and who pushes himself to do it. And so knowing what I know about the brain and how emotions work, most of us, that's the whole thing of the show, right? It's Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Most of us hear the words, quote unquote, Mission Impossible, and we stop dead in our tracks. Well, it's impossible. We're done. Ethan gets a fucking high off of it. You could see it, like Tom Cruise does, because Tom Cruise is the same way. That's why this character is so good for Tom Cruise, because he's the same way. How many people of Tom Cruise's status would be doing the stunts for these movies that Tom Cruise is doing? Only the Tom Cruise. Most people would be using green screens and stunt doubles. And here's Tom for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, jumping off a cliff into a parachute dive 26 times. I mean, the guy's just, and that's why the character is so profound, is because that is a very real trait of Tom Cruise's coming to life. Because where most people would give up, take the easy way out, Tom Cruise is like, how could this be the best thing possible? Even if it means I'm going to be jumping off a cliff with a parachute on a bike in wherever country they were in. How is this best for the movie? How can we make that possible? And that's the thing, like, again, what I've learned from this movie is, and the only reason I could see that is because it was already inside me. And so all of us can go watch Mission Impossible and see, and it's like, how can we apply this to our own life? How can we be at a crossroads and decide which path am I going to try to take? It all comes down to the questions we ask ourselves and the decisions we make after we ask those questions. And so, like me today, I could have just said, Mission Impossible, I'm good, fuck it. Because believe me, I wanted to. I really wanted to just say fuck it today. Not do it, screw it. I've got other things I need to do that's plaguing my head, but this matters to me. Getting on here, talking to you, building up my podcast, it fucking matters to me. So am I going to put something that matters to me to the wayside again, or am I going to sit down and do it? I'm going to sit down and do it, even if it means we're talking about something a little different today. Even if this episode is maybe a little shorter than what I typically do, I'm going to sit down and do it. I'm going to get something out because something is better than nothing. And then we're going to do something different this week because some of the decisions I made about not giving myself enough time, et cetera, totally on me. We're going to do it differently. And we're going to get up and go again because it's only Mission Impossible if we decide it is. There are very, very few things in life that are genuinely impossible. And we can see that in the films, these missions are just insane. And yet Ethan still finds a way. Yes, it's Hollywood. Yes, there's, factors in it. But for the current problem in your life, it's only impossible because one, we're asking the wrong questions and we're not getting the right answers. Or Tank agrees. I don't know if you've heard that, but Tank agrees. Or we're stopping before we even attempt. We're not trying to see it differently. We're seeing it through one perspective, but not another perspective. And that is one of the gifts that Tom Cruise has, is he can look and see these things from different perspectives. And that's how he gets the solution. Not because he has this crazy special talent that nobody else has. It's just because he's willing to see and look at things differently than the average person. And again, we see that in Tom Cruise and his movies. I mean, go watch most movies coming out and go watch Top Gun Maverick. Totally. I mean, even which the technology and certain things weren't there. I mean, definitely the technology allowed them to do this for Top Gun Maverick, filmed in, I think it was technically filmed in 2017, 2018, versus the original Top Gun that was filmed in the 80s. 80s, right? Yeah. Did we have the technology to put cameras in planes like they did in Top Gun Maverick? No. But even if you watch, you can see the force on their face in Top Gun Maverick where, they were just sitting in a plane filming. And so it's just a totally different experience. But, Tom Cruise, technically, it still would have been a good movie, but he really wanted to take it to the next level and see it differently. And how can we make this movie, even better and, to me, more alive than the first one. And that's it's interesting that this is what we ended up talking about today. Because again, I had a totally different episode planned. It just didn't work out today, but we're going to get up. We're going to go again tomorrow. But it does tie in because that's the question that I've been asking myself. What life do you want to live? Do you want to live a life more similar to, in this case, the Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise, of someone who can solve problems that everyone else, says is impossible? I've been currently learning from a place called Guided Light Healing. And one of the things that they say is most people will tell you it's impossible, will tell you it's simple. And so I've been sitting with that and, how is this possible? Not is this impossible, but how is this possible? Because again, we change our questions, we change our life. And we can, like Ethan Hunt, make the impossible possible just by changing our questions and our perspective on the situation. So I really needed to hear that today. I guess there's a reason that the other ones didn't work out, and this is what needed to work out, was because I needed that reminder. But it's funny because I actually rewatched Star Wars over the weekend, and one of my favorite quotes is no different in your mind, or no different, only different in your mind. There we go. Is one of my favorite quotes, and there's something in my life, I'll talk about this later, that I'm making a big hurdle, that I'm making impossible, but no different, only different in my mind. So there's our lesson today from Ethan Hunt and Yoda. only I guess I could combine those. But anyway, so if you don't take anything else from this episode, since we were, as I would call, a random box of potato chips today, but we're recorded. We're going to count the win. We're freaking recorded. We did the thing. So that's actually what I want you to go do right now. What's the thing that you've been putting off that matters to you? And I want you to go do one thing towards it. It doesn't matter. If it's, if you want to write a book, go write one sentence. If you have been wanting to start working out, go walk to the end of your hallway and back. Just do it intentionally, something that matters to you. And then ask yourself, what is the story I'm telling myself about this situation? Am I telling myself it's impossible? Am I telling myself it's hard? How can I see it from a different perspective? And what new question can I ask about it? Because I want you to imagine your mind as a juicer. What you put in is what comes out. And a lot of us will put in an apple expecting an orange juice to come out. The problem is not your brain. The problem is what is being put into it and what we're expecting to come out. So in this case, questions are the fruit and the answer is the juice. And so if you want different answers, if you want a different juice, you have to change the questions, aka the fruit that you are putting into this thing. Your brain's not broken. Your brain is neutral and just is a very cause and effect modality. So go do something, one minor move. This is your action steps for today. Go do one minor thing towards something that matters to you. And then if it feels impossible, if it feels like a mission impossible, take a look at how you're looking at the situation, observe what questions you're asking about the situation, and ask yourself a new question and see what juice comes out at the other end. Because we all need to remember, it's no different, only different in our mind. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Western Hippie Podcast. I'm your host, Michaela, here with my co-hosts, Tank and Willie the Corgi. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review, and we will talk to you next week with the other episode I have planned. So take care and talk soon.